guys, my name is Tatum Tamia. I am the founder and host of the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast.
Hey guys, my name is Keviah Watrice. I'm the founder of She Who Is Called, which is a mobile application teaching thousands of women all over the world how to stay uplifted in the midst of their downfalls.
Yes. Now, this series, you guys, is called God's Plan. So, Keviah and I both strongly believe that God should be the CEO of your business.
Absolutely.
But what happens is a lot of times we don't know how to make God the CEO of our business. We don't know how to hear from God. We don't know how to seek Him on behalf of our business. So, we want to walk you guys through what that actually means. So, Keviah and I are actually going on tour this year.
Yes, I'm so excited.
It's called the God is My CEO Tour. We'll be going to Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago, and DC. So we figured, since we have this new venture, since we're getting ready to go on tour, now is the perfect time to really walk you through the process of making God the CEO, getting your ideas from God, and seeing it through with Him being at the head. So today, on this part of the series though, Keviah, I want to talk about how do you know something is a God idea versus the idea that we have?
Right, yeah. I would say for me personally, in the past, I've had ideas that I didn't ask God about. I didn't walk Him through. For example, before my book, I had an ebook. And I was just so excited to write something and put it out there and create a product for people to purchase that I didn't ask if that was what I was supposed to be doing. Now, the difference between where I was back then and now with the book that I put out, I know that that was something God was telling me to do. And that was through confirmation. I take little things as God speaking to me, because I know He speaks to us in so many different ways. So I was at work and I was writing myself sticky notes at work because I hated being there, and one of them was write your book tonight, and I was on break and I pulled out a book I was going to read, and it was write your book tonight, and it was already something that I was feeling, and in that moment I was working on a completely different project, but because I already was feeling in my spirit that I was supposed to be writing my book, and then that sticky note was stuck to the book, I put that project on hold and I started writing. So I feel when it's a God idea when, first of all, you feel it in your spirit. Yeah. Sometimes we get these feelings and we don't act on them because of fear, of multiple different things, circumstances, feel like you don't have the money. But I feel once you get that first bit of confirmation of something that you're already feeling in your spirit, you know that's something that God is telling you to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think for me, when it came to entrepreneurship in general, kind of pivoted a lot because when I first got into entrepreneurship, I had a youth program called the Queen Academy. And at the time, I just knew based off my upbringing that a part of my purpose was to help teenagers, help them learn how to love themselves, help them learn how to develop these valuable life skills. And so, but after doing that program, I realized there was certain nuances. I don't like dealing with the school systems and the parents. I like doing the work, but I don't like to. This is my dog, you guys. This is Charlie. Say hey,
Charlie.
So if you see him coming in and out, then we're going to keep flowing. But so after doing the youth program, I was like, okay, I like this, but I don't think this is it. And so then after doing that, I was like, okay, how can I take the skills that I have and turn these into a business? So during that time, I wasn't even really seeking God like that. I was still a lukewarm Christian. Right. And so, but when I started doing the consulting business, because my degree's in PR, I always worked in marketing and things like that. So I was like, bet, I'm going to just do this for entrepreneurs and that's going to be my business. But as I was doing that, in the background, I was also building up my faith. I was trying to figure out who God was and reading my Bible and trying to see, because I came across the scripture, and it's still my favorite scripture today. And it's Jeremiah 1:5, and it's before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. Right. So I was like, man, if God knows me so well, if He knows all the hairs that's on my head, and He knows the plan that He has for me is to prosper me, not to harm me, a plan to give me a hope in the future, I'm just trying to do that. Right. You know what I'm saying? I want to know what that is. I'm not trying to waste all this time doing stuff that's not getting me anywhere. Let me just get in alignment with the assignment that He has on my life, and let's see what happens. Right. So as I was doing that, and I was just growing my relationship with Him and seeking Him, God, what do you want me to do? He then started depositing things to me. So at the time, I had a podcast. The podcast was called the Black Girl Boss Podcast. And that was going well, but God just started giving me instructions. change the name. And I had a co-host at the time, so he was like, do it by yourself. And I was like, whoa.
Right.
Do it by myself. Who wants to just listen to me talk for an hour every week? Like, I'm not trying to do that.
Right.
And so I think being where I am now, I think that indicator and understanding of like when I first got into entrepreneurship, the process and the way I did things versus the way I do them now with God at the helm, the difference is when God gives you an idea, a lot of times it's something that you're not qualified to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the first indicator. And it's something that stretches you beyond what you think that you should do. To where at that point then you can only rely on him.
Right.
Because you can't do it if you try it.
Exactly.
You idea you can probably execute.
Right.
A God idea, you need him.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that everybody that as you're listening that you should really take away from it is a God idea is something that can only be done with his strength. A you idea is something that you should that you could probably do yourself, and it's always less than a God idea. And I think it was my pastor or first lady, but somebody said recently, and it really stuck with me. She was like, signs and wonders are not for believers, they're for unbelievers. The reason why God uses unqualified people to do things is so that other people can believe in God. So the story that sticks out to me is the story of Moses. You know, when God told him to go to Pharaoh and tell him to let his people go, he gave him this staff and was like, throw it on the ground, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. So the signs and wonders, because he said, like, once he sees this, then he's going to know it's God who sent you.
Yeah.
So signs and wonders are for other people. So when it's a God idea, he's trying to give you the strength through him to do something that you're not qualified to do, to win souls to him. You know what I mean? So for you guys that are watching this right now, that's something that you really need to take heed to. That idea that's big, that's scary, that seemingly I can't even do this. Yeah. Most of the time is a God idea because he wants to show non-believers or lukewarm believers who he really is.
Right, exactly.
So, but let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about a time where you did a God idea and what that felt like.
Right. I would say just my book, like it was written in one of the most uncomfortable seasons of my life. Like my mom moved away, I moved in with my best friend. It was so hard. I was at this job where I truly just didn't want to be. And this was like the first time of me putting my story out there, my childhood and things like that, and there was a lot of fear about that, you know, because I never knew when was the right time to tell people more about myself and you know how I'm able to even give them all of these quotes and daily devotionals every day. That was like really just fearful to me, you know. You don't know what people are going to think and things like that. So the book, as I was writing it, it was just that taunting fears of like, oh, like what are people going to say? Are they going to perceive this well? And are you even qualified to do this? Like you're saying, it's always going to be something much bigger than you. And at that time, I couldn't see that. You know what I'm saying? And it's huge, and it's not going to make sense, y'all, honestly, until after you do it. Once you see the purpose of why you had to do what God is telling you to do. So, you know, after the book came out and all these people are just like, Keviah, you don't even know. Like, I needed this. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is why I had to go through this. And this is why it had to be produced in such the craziest season of my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's never going to be about you. And when it's so much bigger than you, you're going to feel those fears. You're going to feel incapable. You're not going to understand. That's just how God works. He's going to give you, like, he'll give you a little splat. He'll give you a little piece of the puzzle. But it's not always going to make sense. You know what I'm saying? And you don't get it until you keep following that sweet sound voice, that sweet direction. And then it'll make sense. But I would definitely say my book, like, that was a big yes to God for me. You know what I'm saying? And now I see why.
Something you talked about before was how you wrote something down and then you opened up a book and you saw it again. So we call it confirmation.
Right, exactly, confirmation.
So that's something else that people could really take heed to is if you're nervous about it, now it's a caveat to that. But when you are first learning about God and learning about the difference between God ideas and your ideas, you can ask for that confirmation. Like, God, can you show me signs and wonders that this is what you want me to do? But I also believe once you get to a certain level, where you mature a little bit, he's going to take that pacifier out your mouth and be like, I said what I said.
I said what I said, period. Right.
Period.
Yes. What it takes.
Like, you know what I told you to do. Like, why you playing?
Right.
So now that you, I guess, grown a little bit more spiritually, how do God ideas look now?
Right. Yeah. Now, and I actually talk about this in the book too, is a whole chapter on confirmation because, and I said, you know, I used to be the head member of the I Need Confirmation First committee. Like, I said that because we want confirmation, we get it, and we want it again and again. And now I say, take your confirmation first and run with it. You know what I'm saying? So whenever I feel like, okay, this is something that I feel like I'm supposed to be doing, of course there's always this, I even ask myself, Keviah, is this something that you want to do, or is this something that you feel like God is telling you to do? So I usually just write out my ideas about it, and then I'll go into my quiet time and say, okay, well, like, what do you think about this as well? So just making that open communication and trusting that open communication, because I feel like sometimes we overcomplicate our communication with God, and we'll talk about that, like hearing from him and things like that. So I just like to get quiet, you know what I'm saying, and give him the space to tell me stuff too, you know what I'm saying? So, and I trust my gifts, because I feel like sometimes we don't do that, you know what I'm saying? So I trust my gift and trust what God has given me, and I know that he is going to supply me with everything to do it. So I trust that gift, but I also then run it by, you know, to make sure that I'm doing things the way that it's supposed to be done.
But then, like, how do you know your gifts? Because that's something I had to figure out, because it was like, I'm good at a lot of stuff. There are a lot of tasks that I feel like I can do. And I'm also able to just figure stuff out. So if I don't know how to do something, I can figure out how to do it, and I'll probably be pretty good at it. So for me, it was like, okay, God, and even in this entrepreneurship thing, trying to figure out what's the path. And I always talk about, like, T.D. Jakes in his book Soar. He was saying that the business isn't the dream, it's the vehicle to get you to the dream. And sometimes the vehicle may not be it, but it'll lead you to it. And so for me, as I was kind of pivoting, it really freed me from thinking that pivoting is failure. Because I think when it comes to implementing anything these days, because everybody's on social media, everybody's like watching your every move, we think if we change something up or we pivot a little bit, then we're a failure in some type of way. So for me, when it came to figuring out my gifts, I had to, like, make those pivots and do different things to figure it out. But I remember, like, praying and asking God, like, I'm good at a lot of stuff. You know, if I would have stuck with this youth program, I know it would have been amazing. But I didn't think that I didn't like certain aspects of it. So I knew that that wasn't it. Then when I was building this other business, it's like, I know I'm good at this. I'm effective. My clients are happy. They're making money. I'm doing well. But this isn't it either. So I'm tired of pivoting. I'm tired of trying to figure it out. Like, what is my gift? And that's how I really have my conversations with God. I have to be honest. You know, I think a lot of us, and we'll talk about this when we talk about hearing from God, but a lot of us go into our relationship with God with a mask on, and instead of being vulnerable. So for me, I'm like, if we're gonna build a relationship, this got to be real. Like, I don't like superficial relationships in real life, and I ain't finna do it spiritually. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing it with you either. So I was like, well, God, like, what are my gifts? I want to stick with the thing, because I know that I'm good at a lot of stuff, because I know I have a lot of skills. I want to stick with the thing that you put me on this earth to do. And so God began to show me, like, Tatum, when you open up your mouth, the whole room gets quiet. You know what I mean? Like, at 6th grade, I was telling y'all this before we started recording. In 6th grade, they picked little old me to, like, MC the whole graduation, like standing up there, calling out what's going on, having my little notes and things. And then in high school, then there's always picking me as a leader. And so God began to just show me all the times where my voice mattered, and people wanted to put me in leadership roles, and I've been able to impact people. So he was like, that's your gift. Oh, continue to open your mouth. Just like in Jeremiah, he talks about how he told Jeremiah, I'm going to put my hand over your mouth and say the things that I tell you to say. So God was telling me, like, just say the things I tell you to say. Like, this is your gift. Continue to speak. And for me, it felt too easy. Like, talk? Like, that's it?
That's what
you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to solve any complex problems. Like, what? But then that's, I believe, how my podcast has been able to grow. Because I'm literally just speaking and God is speaking through me, and now we reach the millions of people. And I tell people all the time, I talk for 1 hour a week.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? 1 hour a week on this podcast, and my books are flying off the show. People are booking me to speak. I'm getting paid to just do and walk in who God called me to be. So it's definitely so important to identify your gifts. And for y'all that are watching and listening, it's so important when determining a good idea versus a God idea is to get to the root of what your gift is.
Right. Exactly.
Because it's through that gift that God will be able to do things. And it's within that gift that you'll be able to kind of implement your ideas too.
Exactly.
Like if God says that to speak, if I say, you know what, I want to have an event every Thursday where I'm standing on the roof of a school downtown, like whatever craziness. And I'm going to just do whatever God told me to do. That's my crazy idea. Right. But I'm in the compounds of my gifts. Right, exactly. So I can do that. So it's still a God thing. Yes. But I'm still able to show up and add whatever crazy creative ideas I have to it.
Right. So you trust in your gift. And for me, I would say I was a person who I was looking at my friends in the beginning before I felt like I knew a dose of what my purpose was. You know what I'm saying? And I had friends who could do hair, do makeup, sew clothes, all this crazy stuff. And I was like, I can't do none of that. Like, I guess I gotta be in school because I didn't have what I felt like was a visible talent or a gift. And it wasn't until I took the time to just search within myself, you know, and figure out what, okay, God, like, I grew up in church, and I always hear, oh, like you said, I placed you in your mother's womb, like, you have a purpose, you have gifts, you know, some people have been called to prophesy in my name, you know, you hear all those things, you read those things in the Bible, but it wasn't until I got with God myself, you know, creating a personal relationship to figure out, oh, like, my words are so therapeutic, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've given me this gift to just flow with my words, and they really, like, touch people's lives. So spending that time is just so necessary to figure out what it is. And I feel like sometimes, again, people overcomplicate it. You know, it's like, it's levels to this. It's a purpose is a lifetime journey. You know what I'm saying? So you have to take the time to just go by each level and grow with that. And even now, I feel like I am in a major transitional state. Like, I feel like She Who's Called is about to go to a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? And I have to get quiet and find out what God is calling me to next. You know what I'm saying? And because this is like my baby, like I feel like my first baby, I'm protective of that, and I don't want to go ahead of him, you know what I'm saying? So as long as you take that time and spend that time with him, and you know, just trust whatever you feel is being revealed, then you know, you'll know it's a God idea.
Yes. Okay, guys, I think this is a good place to end it. So this wraps up part 1 of our series of God's plan. If you guys have any questions about this or anything that you want us to answer, just drop it in the comments. Drop it down below. And we'll be sure to get back to you and answer whatever questions that you have. Make sure you get your tickets to the God is My CEO tour. Yes.
We'll have the link below for that too.
Yes. Click the link below, godismyceo.com, and we'll see you guys in a second.
I'm going to see you there.